Hey guys, Captain Vince here, and welcome back on the channel. First things first, Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you had a blissful time, a very Merry Christmas, and a nice holiday period. To those of you who might not celebrate Christmas, just a nice break from everything and a nice time with your family and friends. And I wish you a very happy, blissful, fulfilled 2020, and for that matter, a very successful new decade, starting this year with 2020. So this being said, the question, which is actually the title of this video, this is a question that has inevitably crossed your mind since Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 was announced in June of 2019 during E3. For some people in the community, this question is more than a brief and momentaneous source of doubt. It has in fact become an existential crisis. In this video, I submit that the answer to this question depends heavily on the current state of your simulator. I argue that for a handful of people, the answer is a definite yes, stay away from more purchases, while for most people, a conclusive no, keep going, keep purchasing. First, I will get some inevitable presumptions out of the way. This will be somewhat of the most boring part of the video, but I really want to produce something that is coherent and thorough, and so presumptions will be discussed first. Then I will start by arguing for the yes side, therefore presenting the category of people who I think would not benefit from purchasing any more add-ons for their sim, whether it is X-Plane or P3D. And I will then propose my arguments, and this will be the most substantial part of this video. I will propose my arguments for the no side, presenting the type of simmers who would, I think, lose at not buying more add-ons. Before anything, and as previously mentioned, there are some presumptions that will accompany the entire video, and they must be addressed right now. The first and perhaps most obvious presumption is that you are ready to commit financially to your simulator. This is a given, and so, just briefly stated, it must be a fact, and this is pretty much why you're listening to this video. The second presumption is that you will be getting Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 when it comes out. If you're not planning on getting Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 upon release, because for some reason you feel totally satisfied with your simulator as it is right now, then obviously the answer is go ahead and keep improving the simulator you are happy to stay with for the foreseeable future. The third presumption is more hypothetical, but has a high degree of certainty attached to it. It is that some developers are currently working on developing their products for Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, therefore supposing that a decent amount of product will be available upon launch of the new iteration of flight simulators. This is an important presumption because were we left with the odd A321 and Pilatus developed by Microsoft and the handful of detailed airports, I'm sure there wouldn't be a debate as to where hardcore simmers would go. Fourthly, I presume that Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 will be widely recognized as a paradigm shift in terms of flight simulation, and that it will leave any other simulators to bite the dust. The final presumption is critical. In this video, I will presume that people listening are hardcore simmers who take the word simulation seriously. This presumption entails that we want to extract from our simulator the most realistic flying experience possible. Realism as to visuals, systems, flight dynamics, weather, and everything related to flying an aircraft. Nothing less. Thus, this video is not for people who care very little about the looks and realism of their sim, and thus, it's not for people who will be planning to play Flight Sim 2020, perhaps with an Xbox controller on an Xbox. Okay, so that being said, here's who I think should abstain completely from spending another dime on their simulator. The group of people I have in mind are those who are just now getting into the hobby. It is a fact that neither X-Plane nor P3D are satisfactory out of the box for any simmer who's considering a serious commitment to flight simulation. P3D takes most of the blame here, but I'm sure X-Plane users would still admit that a fair bit of spending is required if, again, realism is your number one priority. It appears to me to be a nonsensical decision for anyone with a profile which fits my previously mentioned presumptions to invest hundreds, even thousands of dollars into a platform which they will quit in a year's time. Unless you are loaded with cash and can afford an investment which is bound to become redundant very shortly, you should stay clear of any major spending. My advice for those who find themselves in this quite annoying situation is twofold. First, if you are new to flight simulation and to flight and flying as a whole, start by learning the basics, and now is the perfect time to do so. Purchase A2A's Cessna 172 and only core world add-ons in the likes of Orbex Global and the NVTEX to give your sim a well-deserved and relatively inexpensive shine. With these brilliant pieces of software, you will actually take a precious amount of time to prepare yourself for the release of Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. Second, go ahead and watch a ton of YouTube tutorials. Indulge in free lessons which can be found on BVA RTCC's website, and read up on flight theory, meteorology, and so on. You are entering the world of flight simulation, and this hobby is truly rewarding when you are doing things accurately, with precision, and with commitment. But of course, some new people to flight simulation will not be entirely new to flying, quite the opposite in some cases. And in that case, my advice is similar but slightly tweaked. I would recommend that you purchase the planes that you wish to fly and have some good and relatively inexpensive fun while waiting for the new simulator. Perhaps you're getting into flight simulation to fly planes that you're not used to flying, and in that case, just buy these planes with the World Core add-ons that I've recommended, and then just wait for the new flight sim. As presumed, it will be a complete paradigm shift. So that's my advice to people who are just starting flight simulation. Be aware that this industry is expecting a major paradigm shift in approximately 1 year. You don't want to invest in the past, but you should definitely invest in the future by gaining invaluable knowledge, thanks to which you will subsequently feel much better when you spend your hard-earned money on add-ons for Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. But now, what about the main demography of hardcore simmers? Those who already are well established in their sims. The existential crisis is understandably hitting this population the hardest, and some don't cope well at all with it and have a somewhat criticizable behavior about it. They try to operate their own egoistic catharsis on the community as a whole. These are the people who are lashing out at developers or even customers that are still releasing or buying add-ons, mocking them for what they brand as useless effort or useless purchase. The ones who, through their own dismay and inability to cope with change, feel the need to bully others into not enjoying new add-ons for their simulators. Look, why do we spend so much time on flight simulators? What do we want to get out of them? The answer is universal, I hope. We are all passionate about aviation, about travel, about the sky, about engineering, about challenge, about an unparalleled thrill in being decent desk pilots. The aim of our simulators is to quench this thirst we have, and thus, in order to do so, we have invested over the years a considerable amount of money into this hobby. Thousands of us have spent thousands of dollars or pounds or euros in mods for one program. We've done so because we feel that these mods or add-ons bring us closer to a state of utter and complete satiety. That being said, it is humane to feel threatened by change, absolutely normal. But this threat should in no way translate into a vicious feeling of irrelevance. You've amassed hundreds of hours of flying, dozens or even hundreds of add-ons, and have created, through the spending of your hard-earned money, A world that is, all things considered, second to none and that provides the excitement and enjoyment you're seeking when your mind is solely focused on what you have now and not on the fact that what you have now might not be the best anymore in a year or so. There's no good reason to stop using your simulator or stop improving it with add-ons that you know you would have enjoyed had the new flight sim never been announced. This is my first and most heartfelt reason why you should continue buying add-ons if that's what you've been doing to fulfill your objective in simulation. Second, keep in mind that no date was announced for the release of Flight Sim 2020. We've coined the upcoming simulator as such, Flight Sim 2020, but that is not the official name. This might be a clear sign that Microsoft is anticipating unexpected delays and that they are not wanting to commit to something even as wide in time as the year 2020 in its entirety. Delaying your own enjoyment for something that still has an unclear release date is something to think about. Third, we don't know what business model Microsoft will be adopting regarding third-party developers. This is an important factor because if they adopt a dovetail-like strategy and ask for a commission on every add-on sold, this might completely smother the will of developers to commit to the platform. And without third-party developers, we can assume that to hardcore simmers, Flight Sim 2020 will be quite worthless. This is rather improbable given Microsoft's business savviness, but who knows? Fourth, there's a good chance that you won't find Flight Simulator to be to a satisfying level with regards to the content it has right off the bat. There might be some good lapse of time between release and a state where we can merge to a platform that has enough content to be what us hardcore simmers deem a complete enough simulator. Fifth, given that Flight Sim 2020 will also come out on Xbox, there is a slight risk that the intended public is not exactly us hardcore simmers. This argument seems a bit weak though in light of the incessant communication from Microsoft and Asobo Studios and their apparent great openness to requests and recommendations by the community. But it is still worth mentioning, I think. Sixth, this is, of course, another hypothetical point, but who knows what Lockheed Martin and Prepared are planning. Maybe we will be astonished with the upcoming update, perhaps version 5. And so let's just wait. There's a lot of things to be said about that, a lot of skepticism, but who knows? Maybe we are in for a surprise. There is one final point that is worth mentioning, and which is less about simmers, although indirectly it really is, but more of concern for developers, which you should keep in mind when deciding to completely withdraw your money from the P3D or X-Plane markets. It is undeniable that developers will still be needed in Flight Sim 2020. Indeed, Microsoft are offering what seems to be an incredible base package. Granted, but imagine what can be added on top of that sublime base package with the effort of developers. Developers have come a long way and are now very proficient at creating products which blend seamlessly with the environment. Whether they are aircraft developers, airport devs, or global enhancement devs, notwithstanding tool devs, we don't know who we will need at the start of the Flight Sim 2020 era. My point is the following. By withdrawing your purchase, you are putting a lot of devs in great peril. These are devs whose experience and talent could be of primal importance once Flight Sim 2020 hits the markets. We could in fact be doing ourselves a great disservice by stopping all purchase, for we would be suffocating potential key actors of the FS 2020 epoch. For all these reasons, I do think that you should not withdraw your purchasing power from the P3D and X-Men markets. The chance is that most people who will listen to this video will be in the second group of people. I'm of course part of that second group of simmers who have amassed a great deal of add-ons which provide for an extremely realistic experience. And believe it or not, I'm extremely excited for the new add-ons, such as the Aerosoft CRJ, the A330, the new FS Labs A321, Milviz, new Orbex airports, and much more. I'm not saying that I have the money to buy all of that, of course not, but I'm saying that I will not let the fact that another sim, which will presumably change the whole game, and which will be released in a year or more, I will not let that fact prevent me from having good fun for a year. A year is a long time, and a lot can happen. Life is simply too short to live in the future. I will keep enjoying my sim as if it's the only relevant one for now, and I will abandon it when I feel like something else has come which will be better suited to quench my thirst for realism. Until then, the prospect of better visuals and performance and realism will not stop me from enjoying my sim, and if part of my enjoyment is treating myself to an add-on from time to time, you bet that I will continue doing so. And I hope you will as well. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.